My name is Cesar Ives, C-E-S-A-R, Aviles, A-V-I-L-E-S.
Thank you. Sir, how is it that you're employed?
I'm a sales manager at a car dealership.
Okay. And back in 2017, were you similarly employed?
Yes, ma'am.
In 2017, which dealership did you work for?
DCH Ford of Thousand Oaks.
And were you also working there prior to 2017?
Yes, ma'am, since 2012.
Do you know someone by the name of Monica Sementilli?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see her in court today?
Jeez. Nope. Can't.
No?
No.
Okay. Looking at this woman over here in the cream-colored jacket,
Yes.
looking at her face, is that Monica Sementilli?
Objection, Your Honor. The question's been asked and answered.
Hello, this.
Is that her?
I'm not 100% sure. It's been so many years, so.
Okay. She looked very different, if that's her?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
All right. Did you also meet someone at the Ford dealership in Thousand Oaks by the name of Fabio Sementilli?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing you what's been marked as People's 13, this gentleman here, do you recognize this individual?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that Fabio?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you meet him at the dealership as well?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your job or your title at the Ford dealership in Thousand Oaks?
At that particular time, I was a finance manager.
And what were your responsibilities as the finance manager at the Ford dealership?
Going over contracts and getting them signed.
By people who are purchasing vehicles?
That is correct.
Explaining the details?
Yes, ma'am.
Talking to them about some of the additional options someone could purchase, such as maintenance contracts and add-ons to your vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And were you the finance manager who handled the paperwork for the lease on Fabio Sementilli's Ford F-150?
That is correct.
What's been previously marked as People 7, page 12. Is this the Ford F-150 that you leased to Fabio Sementilli?
Yes, ma'am.
When he came to the dealership to lease his vehicle, did he bring his wife, Monica, with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. In 2017, did you come in contact once again with Fabio's wife, Monica Sementilli, at the Ford dealership?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing you what's been previously marked as People's 140, page number 1. Do you recognize this individual here?
Yes, ma'am.
Relevance.
So ruled.
Who is this?
Monica Sementilli.
Okay. That's how she looked when you met
Yes,
her
ma'am.
with Fabio, as well as in 2017 when she came back to the dealership.
Yes, ma'am.
Please don't touch. When she came back to the dealership in 2017, was she driving the black Ford F-150 that you had leased to Fabio?
Yes, ma'am, as I recall, yes.
When she initially came back in February, March of 2017, was she brought into you by one of your salespeople?
That is correct.
And who was that?
Gail Burlingame?
Did you see her today?
Yes, ma'am.
And what, if anything, did the defendant tell you she wanted to do at that point in time when Miss Burlingame brought her into your office?
She wanted to go over the options about trading in the car or returning the car. Those are the things that I handle. At that time, I was the sales manager,
Okay.
so I gave her the different options.
Okay. And at that point, did she tell you that her husband had been killed?
Yes, ma'am. It was a communication, and it was stated to Gail and myself. Yes, ma'am.
And what did she tell you about her husband's murder?
She was crying, and she had stated that her husband had been killed while inside the vehicle in the parking lot of her property.
She told you that he had been killed inside of that vehicle that you had leased to Fabio?
As I recall, yes, ma'am.
Did she tell you that because he had pulled into the driveway, was murdered inside the vehicle, that she wasn't comfortable driving the vehicle anymore?
Sustained.
Did she tell you why she didn't want to keep the vehicle?
She was not comfortable driving the vehicle around because of the accident on the vehicle, because her husband had been killed while inside the vehicle. Yes, ma'am.
She didn't describe it as an accident. She said he had been killed?
Killed. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
At any point in time, did she say to you that one of the reasons she wanted to return the car was because of the price?
No, ma'am.
Sustained.
Did she say anything, did she mention anything to you with respect to price?
No, ma'am.
How long of a meeting was this first one?
Within probably 30 to 45 minutes at most with myself. I know it was a little bit longer with Gail, though.
During this 30 to 45 minutes with you, did she cry throughout the meeting?
Throughout the meeting, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, throughout the meeting.
Okay. And at that point, did you explain what her options were?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you offer to do given that she told you her husband had been murdered or killed inside the vehicle?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What did you offer to do to assist her given that she told you her husband had been killed inside the vehicle?
That she could trade in the vehicle or purchase another vehicle if she wanted to.
So you told her she could just return the car and
Yes.
be done.
Objection, reading.
I love that part.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't need to purchase a new car or extend the lease or anything like that.
That is correct.
Okay. Did you also tell her that if she wished that you would assist her or someone at the dealership would assist her with a new car if she wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
During her 30 to 45 minute meeting with you, when she was crying, did she use her phone at all?
Throughout the whole 30 minutes, a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And could you hear the person's voice on the other end?
It was a male for sure. I just didn't know who he was.
Okay. And that day, did she actually return her husband's Fabio's Ford F-150 truck?
Not on that particular day, no.
Okay. Did she drive off in the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
On April 3rd of 2017, did Monica Sementilli returned to the dealership.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did she tell you she wanted to do on that day?
She wanted to return the vehicle and purchase a new vehicle.
Okay. And was she working still with Gail Burlingame at this point in time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was her behavior the same, the demeanor the same as it was on the prior occasion when she met with you and was crying for that 30 to 45-minute visit?
Not as I recall, ma'am, no.
What was her conduct like on that day?
Very jovial, laughing, smiling a lot more. There was no crying going on.
Given that there's only a couple months left on the Ford F-150 lease, did you agree to buy out the remainder of the lease?
We just,
Sustain.
Was there only a couple months left on the lease at that point in time?
as I recall, yes, ma'am.
And what did you offer to do?
We could just return it back to Ford.
So you weren't going to charge her for the next couple months?
Correct.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, later on that day, as the sales manager, did you go over paperwork with her as it related to the buyout of the truck that you were going to buy out the rest of the lease and the purchase of a new vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what vehicle it was that she was purchasing that day?
A Ford Mustang GT.
Your Honor, I have a sales contract that is 5 pages in length, along with a photograph of the front and driver's compartment of a black Mustang with red interior. May they be marked as People's 209?
Yes.
The photograph has a 7 in the lower left corner. Showing you what's been marked as the photo to the packet for People's 209. Do you recognize this vehicle here?
As I recall, yes, ma'am, yes.
And is that the vehicle that was sold to Monica Sementilli on the date of April 3rd of 2017?
As I recall, yes.
Showing you the sales contract or the lease contract for the vehicle. Do you recognize what you're looking at here?
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at the top portion of the contract, is this a document that you filled out on the date of April 3rd of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you type up or place into the document the salesperson's name, Gail Burlingame, that you told me about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is this the sales contract for what you discussed with the defendant, with Monica Sementilli on April 3rd
Yes, ma'am.
of 2017? Okay. I want to ask you some questions about this. Did you discuss with her various options that come or you could order for the vehicle?
As part of my job, I do describe the different options that you're able to purchase. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did the did Monica Sementilli conduct any negotiations with you on price?
No, ma'am.
And did you discuss with her not only the options that you could add on to your vehicle, such as rims and extras, but the price for each of those options.
Yes, ma'am.
And did Monica Sementilli in fact purchase all available options?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did that increase the base price of the vehicle
Yes.
by approximately how much?
Anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000 roughly.
Okay. And one of those options, did that include things like a prepaid maintenance contract
Yes, ma'am.
for the vehicle? During this conversation that you had with her relating to the lease of the new vehicle, did she call anybody?
Yes, ma'am. On various occasions, yes.
Okay. And how long do you think that conversation took place with her on the date that she leased the new Mustang?
Between her and me,
Yes.
probably another 30 minutes to 45.
Okay. And approximately how many phone calls did she make that time?
As I recall, about 2 or 3 again.
Okay. And could you hear a voice on the other end of the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it appear to again be a male voice?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
At some point during the process, did her male companion show up at the dealership?
Never got to see him physically, but I was advised by Gail that he was in fact at the dealership.
Okay. At any point, did he come in and try to negotiate price with you?
Yes, ma'am. Not with me personally, no, ma'am. He was more about, I guess, going over with her, but never negotiate anything with me personally. I never got to meet him.
So the total amount of this particular lease with all of the options was $62,271, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And on this contract, did she actually sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she provide you with her home address?
Yes, ma'am.
This would be the fourth page of the contract. Did she also fill in some of the information on the contract, including her address, her driver's license number, her home and cell phone numbers, as well as her business?
That's filled in by the salesperson, by information given by the customer. So
Okay. And on the contract as well,
Let me interrupt one moment. I still need to see council sideline. Forgive.
on the last page of the contract, is that where the lessor also puts down or provides information for references
that is correct.
and signs at the bottom?
Yes.
So on this particular contract, it says Deborah Obad and Ernie Valorano along with their contact information.
Overruled.
Correct. Sorry.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Burke?
Good morning, Mr. Avil.
Good morning.
So back in 2017, you were a car salesman, manager at the
Manager,
DCH
yes, ma'am.
dealership.
Yes, ma'am.
You regularly sold cars and discussed credit arrangements and leases, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you, in fact, met Fabio Sementilli and Monica Sementilli when Fabio originally came in to lease the truck,
Correct.
And do you have the terms of that lease, or were you ever asked to produce that actual lease for the truck?
For the F-150, no,
Yes.
ma'am. No.
You never looked for it?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the terms of the lease?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And when you first met Monica Sementilli again, that was sometime in March of 2017?
As I recall, yes.
Okay. Do you remember what date?
I do not.
Okay. And had she called the dealership first because she had received a notice that the lease was going to be up on the truck?
No, ma'am. Not that I'm aware of. That was never brought to me, so I wouldn't know.
Ms. Birmingham never told you
No,
that?
ma'am.
Okay. But when you first encountered her again, when did you first meet her? When did Fabio Sementilli first lease the truck? Do you know?
I don't recall the exact time.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember whether it was a 3-year lease, a 4-year lease?
Normally, it's an average of 3 years, but in this particular case, I do not recall.
Did you say normally it was for 3 years?
Normally, it's 3 years, but I don't recall in this particular case.
So when you first encountered her for the second time, it was her coming into the dealership to talk about the lease on the truck, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she gave information which you looked up on the lease to familiarize yourself again with the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And you looked up the lease and determined that it was only in Fabio's name, correct?
I don't recall. I don't particularly recall that.
Okay. Did you look up the lease information?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
And if a lease is in someone's name, but not the person trying to transfer the lease or assume the lease, they're not allowed to do that.
That
correct?
is correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you informed Ms. Sementilli about what the options were for the lease at that point, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that point in March, you said there were 2 or 3 months left on the lease?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you told her at the time that the lease couldn't be transferred to her name, correct?
If her name wasn't in it, then yes, I would have said that. I would have made that statement. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Want to object that it cause respect relation.
We have in custom, I'll allow that.
And you did not, at that time, agree, you didn't prepare any documents for waiving the payments, the remaining payments on the lease, am I correct?
That would be correct, yes.
And so when you testified earlier about giving Ms. Sementilli options at that time on the lease, what specifically did you tell Ms. Sementilli?
So the different options about returning the vehicle or purchasing another vehicle. We also have the option on a case like that that we could buy the vehicle and sell it right back to a different customer. So we can purchase a vehicle as a dealership and flip it over and sell it to somebody else. Easy.
Okay, but it was a leased truck, correct?
Correct.
So she still owed whatever remaining lease payments on the truck, correct?
Correct.
She was responsible for that, and you let her
Correct.
know that?
Yes,
Okay.
if I did, yes.
And you don't remember whether it was 2 or 3 months?
I do
but
not.
in March, close to that?
Sure.
And the other option you gave her was for you to purchase the vehicle?
Correct.
But who would you be purchasing it from?
Directly from Ford. So it goes back to Ford. And as a dealership and as a selling dealership, we have the first option. We can just buy it automatically and retail it right away.
Got it. So you weren't offering her to pay her for anything to buy the truck, correct?
Not as I recall, no.
And you said the other option you gave her was to buy a new car?
Correct.
And as you recall, she left that day with the truck,
Yes, ma'am.
having been informed she needed to make the remaining payments, right?
Correct.
And she didn't buy a car.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next time you saw Miss Sementilli was on the date that she returned the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that was, to your recollection, April 3rd,
Yes, ma'am.
2017?
Yes.
Okay. So that was March, April, that was about a month after you had last spoken to her,
Yes, ma'am.
approximately?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Got it. And did you ever determine whether the payments had been made on the truck?
Not I do not recall right now, no.
So, Mr. Abil, showing you the prosecution's exhibit 209, page 1. This is the sales contract you negotiated with Miss Sementilli on the date you sold her a new car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I think you were asked before, the sales associate that was credited with selling the car was a Gail Burlingame?
Burlingame.
I'm sorry, Burlingame?
Yes.
Okay. And at sales associates, they would work on commission at your
That is correct.
place of employment?
Yes.
How would that work exactly? What in 2017 would be the percentages in terms of,
About 20% of profit margin.
It's irrelevant.
Still a rule.
I'm sorry?
About 20% of profit margin.
Okay, they would get in their pocket?
Correct. That's how they get compensated, yes.
Council, let me interrupt. Let's take our morning recess for 15 minutes. The evidence applies. I'll see you here. Defendants present, all counsel present, jury and also present. Mr. Evidence, you are still under oath, and the defense may continue with their cross.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or good morning again, Mr. Aviles. During the break, you spoke with Ms. Silverman.
Yes,
She
ma'am.
came over and spoke to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us what was discussed?
Sure.
What she said? Yeah.
Sure. She just told me that she was going to ask me more questions.
Okay.
Bless you.
That's what she
She
said.
told you she was going to ask you more questions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Aviles, when we left off, we were discussing the contract that you negotiated for the sale of the Mustang with Ms. Sementilli in April, I think it's April 3, 2017.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you had discussed the commission system, and you were discussing the terms of the sales agreement that you negotiated, correct?
Correct.
Did you negotiate the sale price, or was that Ms. Burlingame?
So as a sales manager, I normally would give the first offer for sheet to the salesperson. She will present it, and if there are any issues, then I will go in. And at that particular time, I'm not 100% if I was involved in negotiating that particular deal, but I know that I worked the deal. My name is on paper, yes, ma'am.
And you, when you say you worked the deal, is it fair to say that you told Ms. Sementilli about additional things she could purchase on the car if she chose to complete the sale?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
And you recall doing that, correct?
As I remember, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And am I correct that when Ms. Sementilli purchased this vehicle in April of 2017, all that she paid DCH Ford was $1,000 to take the car?
Not accurate. She did not give us anything. There was no money involved. The $1,000 that you see in the contract, it's a rebate from the manufacturer. So there was nothing out of her pocket.
So when you placed this $1,000 on the purchase contract
Yes.
as the down payment, you did not require her to pay that. You simply applied the $1,000 from the rebate.
That is correct.
Okay. So in order for Ms. Sementilli to take the car home that day, she financed the entire car on credit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she paid nothing
Nothing.
to take it. And in fact, am I correct that she financed the car over the next 8 years?
If I recall, it's 75 months, so that will be six and a half.
Okay. Drawing your attention to page 1 of People's Exhibit 209, where it speaks about the price and date of the final payment on the car being 10/18/25.
Right.
Isn't that next October?
So it's 77 months if you see on top. So it's 78 months.
Okay, why would she be paying money on the 96th month?
That will be her last payment. I don't know. That's a 23. Is that a 25?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, I can't see it clearly, ma'am. But it's a 77 months purchase. You can see it on the contract in there.
In which counsel you can remove the exhibit and approach the witness with the exhibit.
Sure. May I show you?
Yeah,
the-
absolutely.
Thank you.
To tell you that it makes not that much difference because I'm not wearing my glasses, but I'm trying.
worries.
Before.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Sorry.
I could make a lot of money with a rental.
I can't tell. It looks to me like a 23 or it could be a 25.
That's the only thing we have
Yes.
here. Try this.
Thank you, sir.
You know, getting old is not for the brave.
Oh, that's a 25.
25.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would mean she had put the car on credit and financed it through October of 25, which
Yeah.
would be over 8 years,
Good.
correct?
Yes, okay, yes.
Okay. And you then discussed with her, well, am I correct that the actual cash price of the motor vehicle and accessories on the car was not $62,000 but $43,590? Is that correct? It says cash price of motor vehicle and accessories.
No, that's just the actual price of the vehicle. That does not include accessories.
Okay, so when it says cash price of motor vehicle and accessories, it does not include accessories.
No, there is a breakdown if you go further down that it will show it to you.
Okay, terrific. And going down the two listed on the sales contract on this first page are theft protection, is that right? Basic WGP 5,000, that's a theft anti,
That's GAP. Yes, GAP.
okay, what is that?
You can call it theft protection, so similar to it. In case of an accident and the car gets totaled and the insurance doesn't pay for it, they will pay it.
Okay, and that's something she asked for, correct?
I do not recall. That was presented to her, yes. I normally have it a percent and everything on it, but I don't recall if she did specifically ask for it.
Okay, fair enough. And the next is some kind of scratch maintenance protections called permaplate.
Correct.
And that's a coating to prevent scratches on the
Yes,
car?
that's correct.
Okay. And then she also agreed, and again, these warranty service, these are things you offered her or she asked for?
We offer them initially 100% of the time at the front. Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
we did offer.
Okay. And she bought for the 8 years she was going to be financing the car. She bought an extended service contract.
Correct.
Okay. She got oil replacement
Yes.
over the lifetime of the vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
Maintenance protection, and then she got an extended warranty. Correct.
So 3 for 1, those are optional packages that I don't remember what that involves. So that's a completely different package.
Okay, but it's an extended warranty through Ford?
The extended warranty is on line 1.
Okay.
So the one that you see in there on line 3, that's a completely different package that was sold to her.
But it's something to do with, as section I says, service?
Sure,
Okay, so it's something service
Sure.
related?
sure.
Okay. Can you tell me on this contract, Mr. Aviles, where does it say that she purchased any extras like rims or anything to do with extra accessories on the car?
You won't show it if it's not in the contract. She did not purchase them, so you would have to be showing in there in the contract.
Okay, and you don't see anything like that in the contract, correct?
Yeah, from where I'm looking at, no.
Okay. And you also know that a large portion of the money that Ms. Sementilli spent on the car was to pay for the credit, to pay for the financing, correct?
$6,246 is what they charge. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Mr. Avil, am I correct that you, at some point, overheard Ms. Sementilli on the phone with someone on the April 3rd visit where she purchased the car that you thought was a man?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you also hear her speaking to her daughter?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And did you, in that meeting with Ms. Sementilli, did you or did you not meet a gentleman in person?
I did not. No, ma'am.
Okay. But when you were interviewed previously, correct, in this
Yes,
case?
ma'am.
Okay. And you spoke to a Detective Mitzi Roberts,
Yes, ma'am.
and she called you on the telephone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how did she get your number? Do you know?
Through Gail.
Okay. And when she called you, you specifically told her that Monica was with a man during the purchase of the car, and the man had way too much insight. Do you remember telling her that?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you told her that the man had the last say on all of the decisions on the car?
Don't recall saying that, but he did have a lot of insight into the purchase. But I don't recall saying that particular phrase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you describe what the man did?
She kept calling and going over the different offers,
Okay,
and then she will hang up. We will go through different options, and then she will call again, and then she will hang up, and then we'll go through different options, and she will call again.
okay. I think you, did you tell the detective that the man had the last say in everything?
Can't recall, ma'am.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the
Sure.
report of what you said?
Absolutely.
This is page 1 of Detective Roberts' statement form. Directing your attention to the last
Yes, ma'am.
paragraph.
This one right here.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
So you told Detective Roberts that this man had the last say in everything. Is that correct?
If I said that at that time, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is something you heard on the telephone?
This is based on the information that she was giving him, and based on the fact that she agreed to the terms after she had run the contract over with him, after she had gone over different options. That's the reason why.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes,
No further
ma'am.
questions.
Redirect.
Yes. Looking at Exhibit 29,
Sorry, what was that exhibit number?
I'm sorry, 209, left out a digit. If the vehicle was financed over a period of 77 months, as you described, that was typical, that would be October 18th of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't prepare anything on the first date that the Monica Sementilli came in February or March because she didn't make any decisions that day.
That is correct.
But the day that she returned and you met with her on April 3rd, the date of the contract, that's when you prepared the paperwork, correct?
That is correct.
And on that first date is when you offered to buy the vehicle back from her so that she would have no further payments at that point.
That is correct.
But rather than doing that, taking you up on your offer, she drove off in Mr. Sementilli, the vehicle, the Ford F-150, that you had leased to him and his wife previously.
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, the value of the Ford F-150 versus the value or price of the new Mustang GT, which of those vehicles was more expensive at that time?
The Mustang GT.
By how much?
Based on the contract, by probably about 20, 25,000,
$1,000?
yes.
Did you also give her the option to hand back in the Ford F-150 and walk away from the dealership owing nothing at all to the dealership?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that because she had explained to you that her husband had been murdered inside the vehicle?
Not only because of that, yes, the answer to the question, but when the lease is almost over and there is a deceased person, you can return it without a problem.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you about one of the options. I think you said that, did you use the term gap insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you 2 months ago for me? So, if you drive your brand new vehicle off the lot within a certain amount driven off the lot, the gap insurance is gives you the full replacement value new for the vehicle, even though the vehicle may have depreciated once you drive it off the lot?
That only covers in the event that you're financing a vehicle. So if the vehicle is a total loss or it gets stolen or it's damaged, then your personal insurance will pay for it. GAP will pay the difference. Since you're financing the vehicle, you still have money owed.
So if the vehicle is totaled, then that gives you back that difference between the two, so that you get the full replacement value for a brand new car.
Yes, ma'am.
And with respect to the 3-for-1 package option, that was, as you said, as you mentioned on page 2, an entirely separate additional package you could purchase.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is some of the items that drove up the cost of this particular Mustang over the base price.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And those were all of the things that you mentioned to her and that Monica Sementilli chose to purchase from you.
Yes, ma'am. Standard procedure to disclose everything.
I have nothing further.
Any cross?
Yes, just briefly. Thanks, Laura. Mr. Avil, looking at, again, the 3-for-1, I believe you testified early that was also some kind of service-related package?
That is correct.
Okay. And when you mentioned before that you offered to Miss Sementilli on the first date you met with her when she was trying to discuss the lease on the truck. I think Ms. Silverman asked you if you offered to buy out the car, buy back from her? Or,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you have a lease on a vehicle, am I correct that at the end of the lease, once the payments are made, you have the option of buying the vehicle if you're the leaseholder?
If you're the leaseholder, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on the lease that Fabio Sementilli had only in his name, the buyout on that Ford 150 truck was substantially less than the buyout price if Monica Sementilli was buying out the truck, correct?
Assumes facts not in evidence that the lease was only in his name. As he
No,
said.
there's been testimony as to that. It's overruled.
Could you repeat the question,
Yes.
please?
The buyout for somebody purchasing the car who was not on the lease was more money than the lease if the leaseholder had bought out the car.
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
So if in this particular case, the buyout for Fabio Sementilli would have been $30,000. In Monica Sementilli's case, you told her if she wanted to buy out the lease, she would have to spend $44,000, correct?
I don't recall that conversation, ma'am. No.
Okay, but something more in terms of the amount, it was more than the original buyout for the leaseholder.
So it would have been more because we have to inspect the vehicle and normally there's cost to it. So it would have been more. How much? I don't recall.
Okay. And showing you just one more thing, you did not give Ms. Sementilli directing your attention to People's 209 section J, prior credit or lease balance paid by seller.
Correct.
You didn't give her any monies or credit
No.
for turning in the lease.
Correct.
Nothing further, thank you.
Yes,
Anything
ma'am.
further by the people?
Just briefly, you didn't charge her for turning in the lease early either,
Correct.
and you applied $1,000 rebate.
Rebate.
I have nothing further.
Anything further? Thank you, Ms. Aviles.
Yes,
You're
sir.
excused.
Thank you, sir.
You may call the next witness.
Thank you. People call Gail Burlingame.